Have you ever wondered why some men are drawn to your darkness more than your light? Perhaps it's not your beauty that captivates them, but the shadow of your soul whispering what they fear the most. There exists a feminine power so profound, so magnetic, that when a woman awakens it, she doesn't need to chase any man. He simply gravitates toward her as if she possessed an invisible magnetic field. Carl Jung dedicated decades studying this phenomenon through the concept of the shadow, that part of ourselves we repress, deny, and hide from the world. But when a woman integrates her feminine shadow, something extraordinary happens. She becomes irresistible, not through perfection, but through wholeness. Today we're going to dive deep into Jungian archetypes, the psychology of attraction, and how you can awaken this magnetic power that lies dormant within you. Carl Jung, the revolutionary Swiss psychiatrist, proposed that every human being possesses a shadow, the sum of all parts of ourselves that have been rejected, suppressed, or deemed unacceptable by our consciousness. From childhood, we learn what is appropriate for girls. Be sweet, be nice, don't be aggressive, don't be too sexual, don't be too ambitious, don't be too emotional. Each "don't be" creates a layer of repression. Each social expectation pushes an authentic part of who we are into the depths of our psyche. And there, in the darkness, these parts don't disappear. They accumulate, take root, and become the shadow. Most people live their entire lives running from their own shadow. They construct a persona, a social mask, that is acceptable, predictable, safe. For women, this persona is usually the good girl, the woman who pleases, who causes no trouble, who is always kind, always understanding, always available. But here's the fascinating paradox. While this persona may bring social approval, it rarely brings genuine desire, lasting fascination, or deep attraction. Men may respect the persona. They might even marry it, but they become obsessed with the shadow, because the shadow contains the vitality, the wildness, the raw authenticity that civilization tried to tame. When a woman integrates her shadow, she stops being two-dimensional and becomes three-dimensional, full of paradoxes, mysteries, and depth that is impossible to fully decipher. And it's this impossibility of being completely understood that creates obsession. The feminine shadow is not simply the general shadow that Jung described. It carries specific qualities that have been particularly repressed in women through centuries of social and cultural conditioning. Let's explore these facets one by one. First, there is feminine anger. For generations, women have been taught that anger is masculine, that it's ugly, that it pushes people away, so we learn to swallow our anger, to transform it into silence, into passive resentment, into self-sabotage. But repressed anger doesn't disappear. It leaks out in subtle manipulation, in victimization, in emotional explosions that seem disproportionate because they are, in reality, years of accumulated rage. When a woman consciously integrates her anger, she becomes powerful, not aggressive, but assertive. She sets clear boundaries. She says no without guilt, and men feel this. They feel they cannot manipulate her, cannot easily control her. This creates respect and, paradoxically, intense desire. Second, there is autonomous feminine sexuality. Patriarchal society has always feared free feminine sexuality. We created labels: saint or whore, wife or mistress, good girl or easy woman. This dichotomy forced women to repress their genuine sexual desires, their erotic curiosity, their carnal appetite. The woman who integrates this part of the shadow doesn't perform sexuality for male approval. She owns it for herself. She knows her body, her desires, her boundaries. She has no shame about pleasure. And this sexual authenticity, not to be confused with performative promiscuity, creates a magnetism that is absolutely hypnotic to men. Why? Because they sense they are in the presence of a woman who doesn't need them to validate her sensuality. She is already complete. Third, there is ambition and healthy selfishness. Women have been conditioned to be eternal caregivers, to put everyone before themselves, to sacrifice their dreams for others. The feminine shadow contains raw ambition, the desire to conquer, to shine, to be the star, not the supporting role. It contains the healthy selfishness that says, my needs matter, my time is valuable, my dreams are a priority. When a woman integrates this, she stops being the woman who waits to be chosen and becomes the woman who chooses. This reversal of dynamics is profoundly attractive because it breaks the expected script. Fourth, there is the wild woman, the concept that Clarissa Pinkola Estes explored brilliantly. It's the instinctive woman, undomesticated, who trusts her intuition more than social rules, who isn't afraid of seeming too much, too intense, too passionate, too alive. This part of the feminine shadow was systematically hunted and destroyed throughout history, literally during witch hunts and metaphorically through centuries of conditioning. But she still exists in every woman, waiting to be liberated. When you repress your feminine shadow, you become predictable, and predictability is the death of attraction. Think about all the relationships you've seen where the man clearly lost interest. In most cases, it's not because the woman did something wrong. It's because she became completely known, completely safe, completely without mystery. She cut off all the parts of herself that could create tension, conflict, or unpredictability. The woman who represses her shadow becomes the cool girl. She agrees with everything. She never has strong opinions. She molds her preferences according to the man she's interested in. She's always emotionally and physically available. She avoids anything that might cause discomfort or conflict, and then she wonders why he's not obsessed with her, why his attention wanders, why the initial passion evaporates so quickly. Jung observed that what we don't bring into consciousness appears in our lives as fate. For women who repress their shadow, this fate often manifests as a pattern of attracting emotionally unavailable men, men who undervalue them, or relationships where they're always giving more than receiving. Why? Because the repressed shadow seeks expression through projections. You attract people who carry the qualities you've denied in yourself. If you've repressed your anger and your power, you'll attract aggressive or domineering men who will express those qualities for you. If you've repressed your sexuality, you'll attract men who objectify you, or situations where your sexuality is defined by others, not by yourself. The shadow always finds a way to manifest, either consciously through integration or unconsciously through projection and repetition of destructive patterns. Moreover, repressing the shadow creates an energy of desperate neediness. When you're not whole, you unconsciously seek completion through others. You need male validation to feel valuable. You need the relationship to feel complete. This neediness is felt by men as a heavy, suffocating energy. It's not attractive, it's repellent. Men become obsessed with women who don't need them to be complete, women who desire them but don't depend on them for their sense of identity and worth. Throughout history and mythology, there exists an archetype that fascinates and terrifies in equal measure: the femme fatale. Cleopatra, Lilith, Salome, Carmen. These figures represent the integrated feminine shadow. They are not simply bad or dangerous, as patriarchal narrative often portrays them. They are complete. They possess both light and darkness, both tenderness and ferocity, both vulnerability and power. What makes the femme fatale so magnetic? She's not afraid of her own complexity. She can be loving and cruel, loyal and independent, vulnerable and impenetrable. She doesn't try to fit into a box. She contains multitudes. Walt Whitman wrote, "Do I contradict myself? Very well, then I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes." The femme fatale lives this truth. But let's demystify something important. Integrating your feminine shadow does not mean becoming manipulative, cruel, or destructive. These are manifestations of the unintegrated shadow, the shadow that controls you instead of being consciously embodied. True shadow integration creates a woman who is simultaneously strong and soft, confident and humble, sexual and emotional, independent and capable of deep intimacy. The woman with an integrated shadow doesn't use her shadow qualities to hurt others. She uses them to protect herself, to establish healthy boundaries, to maintain her individuality within relationships. She can be fiercely protective of her time, space, and energy without being selfish. She can express anger without being abusive. She can be sexual without being objectified. She moves through the world with a centered power that doesn't need to dominate others, but also refuses to be dominated. This is what creates obsession in men. Not the performance of these qualities, but the authentic embodiment of them. Men can smell performance from a mile away. They can sense when a woman is trying to manipulate them by playing a role. But when they encounter a woman who has done the deep psychological work of shadow integration, who is genuinely comfortable with all aspects of herself, they encounter something rare and precious. They encounter a whole human being, not a half-person seeking completion through a relationship. To understand why the integrated feminine shadow creates obsession in men, we need to understand Jung's concept of the anima. The anima is the feminine aspect within every man's psyche. It's his inner woman, his connection to emotion, intuition, creativity, and the unconscious. Most men are completely disconnected from their anima. Modern masculinity often demands the repression of anything deemed feminine: emotions, vulnerability, receptivity, intuition. When a man encounters a woman who embodies the integrated feminine shadow, he encounters his own anima projected outward. She becomes a bridge to the parts of himself he has lost or never knew. She awakens something in him that has been dormant. This is not healthy if it remains purely projection, but it explains the intensity of the initial attraction and obsession. The woman with an integrated shadow carries a quality of psychological depth that most people lack. She has done the inner work. She has faced her demons, integrated her rejected parts, and emerged more whole. Men sense this depth, even if they can't articulate it. They sense they are in the presence of someone who has journeyed into the underworld of the psyche and returned with treasures. This woman doesn't need to play games, because her very presence is the game. She doesn't need to manufacture mystery, because she is genuinely complex and multifaceted. She doesn't need to withhold love to keep him interested, because her love comes from fullness, not neediness, and therefore contains both warmth and boundaries, both giving and receiving. Men become obsessed because they never quite figure her out, not because she's deliberately confusing, but because she contains contradictions that are authentically integrated. She can be completely present with him and also completely self-contained. She can be deeply vulnerable and also unshakably strong. She can surrender to love without losing herself. These paradoxes create a fascination that never quite resolves into boredom or complacency. One of the most misunderstood aspects of the feminine shadow is what's often called the dark feminine. This is not about being dark in a negative sense, but about embracing the feminine powers of destruction, transformation, and death. In nature, the feminine is both the womb that creates life and the grave that receives death. She is both spring and winter, both birth and decay. The dark feminine has been demonized because it represents the aspects of femininity that cannot be controlled or commodified. She is the woman who says no, the woman who leaves, The woman who destroys what no longer serves her. The woman who is comfortable with endings. In a culture that wants women to be eternally nurturing, eternally available, eternally giving, the dark feminine is threatening. But integrating the dark feminine is essential for wholeness and for creating genuine attraction. When you can destroy what no longer serves you, whether that's a relationship, a self-concept, a pattern, or a situation, you demonstrate a power that is deeply attractive. You show that you value yourself enough to let things die when they need to die. Many women stay in relationships long past their expiration date because they cannot access their dark feminine power of destruction. They cannot bear to hurt someone, to be seen as the bad guy, to face the discomfort of endings, so they slowly suffocate in relationships that have become prisons. They lose their vitality, their spark, their life force, and then they wonder why their partner is no longer attracted to them. The woman who has integrated the dark feminine can walk away. She can end things cleanly. She can say, "This is no longer serving me," without guilt or endless explanation. This doesn't mean she's heartless. It means she values her life force more than she values being perceived as eternally nice. And paradoxically, this makes men value her more, because they understand on some primal level that if they don't treat her right, she will leave. She is not trapped by her own niceness or her fear of being alone. The dark feminine also relates to a woman's comfort with her own power. Many women are afraid of their power because they've been taught that powerful women are threatening, unfeminine, or unlovable. So they dim their light, play small, apologize for their success, downplay their intelligence. This is a rejection of the dark feminine aspect that is comfortable taking up space, commanding attention, and wielding influence. When you integrate this aspect, you stop apologizing for being powerful. You stop making yourself smaller to make others comfortable. You own your accomplishments, your intelligence, your impact. And yes, this will intimidate some men, but the men worth having will be aroused by it, not threatened. They will want to rise to meet you, not ask you to descend to their level. Understanding the concept intellectually is one thing. Actually doing the work of shadow integration is another. This is not quick or easy work. It requires courage, honesty, and often support from a therapist or guide who understands depth psychology. But here are some practical approaches to begin this journey. First, identify what you judge most harshly in other women. Jung said that what irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. When you feel intense judgment, disgust, or anger toward another woman, that's often a sign that she's expressing something you've repressed in yourself. The woman who is too loud might be triggering your repressed need for attention. The woman who is too sexual might be triggering your repressed sexuality. The woman who is too ambitious might be triggering your repressed drive for success. Make a list of the women who trigger you most strongly and what qualities they display that you judge. Then ask yourself honestly, is there a part of me that wants to express this quality but feels it's not allowed? This is uncomfortable work because it requires admitting that your judgments reveal more about you than about the person you're judging. Second, explore your fantasies and what you secretly admire in villains. Do pay attention to which characters in movies, books, or shows captivate you, especially the ones you shouldn't like. Often, the characters we're drawn to but feel guilty about loving represent shadow aspects. If you're fascinated by the powerful villainess who manipulates everyone to get what she wants, there might be a repressed part of you that wants to be more strategic and less apologetic about your desires. If you're drawn to the woman who breaks all the rules and lives by her own code, there's probably a repressed rebel in you. These attractions are not accidents. Your psyche is trying to show you what you've rejected. The goal is not to become a villain, but to integrate the qualities these figures represent in a conscious, healthy way. The manipulation becomes strategic thinking. The rule-breaking becomes authentic independence. Third, practice expressing the emotions you've been taught are unacceptable. If you've repressed anger, start small. Say, "I'm angry about this," instead of, "I'm just disappointed." Notice what happens in your body when you feel anger rising. Instead of swallowing it, breathing through it, or rationalizing it away, let yourself feel it fully in a safe space. Punch a pillow. Write an unsent letter where you express everything you really feel. Scream in your car. If you've repressed your sexuality, start exploring it privately. What actually turns you on, not what you think should turn you on. What are your fantasies? What does your body want? This isn't about immediately acting on everything, but about becoming conscious of what you've denied. Fourth, start setting boundaries without over-explaining. Women with repressed shadows tend to over-explain and over-justify every boundary they set, as if they need permission to have needs. Practice saying, "I'm not available that day," without launching into a lengthy explanation of why. Practice saying, "That doesn't work for me," without apologizing profusely. The discomfort you feel is the discomfort of accessing your power. Fifth, engage in active imagination, a technique Jung developed. Set aside time in a quiet space and imagine dialoguing with your shadow. You might visualize her as a figure. What does she look like? What is she wearing? What is her energy? Then ask her questions. What do you want me to know? What have I been denying? What do you need from me? This might sound strange if you've never done it, but it's a powerful way to access unconscious material. Write down whatever comes up without censoring it. Sixth, examine your relationship patterns for shadow projections. Who are you repeatedly attracting? What qualities do these people share? If you keep attracting emotionally unavailable men, you might be projecting your own emotional unavailability. If you keep attracting aggressive men, you might be projecting your repressed aggression. The universe doesn't send us what we want, it sends us what we are vibrating at. Changing your patterns requires integrating what you've projected outward. When a woman does this deep work of shadow integration, something shifts in her energy field. It's subtle but palpable. She walks into a room differently. She speaks differently. She relates differently. This isn't about techniques or strategies. It's about fundamental transformation. Men sense this integrated energy as a kind of gravitational pull. She's not performing femininity. She's embodying it in its fullness. She can be nurturing without being a mother figure. She can be strong without being masculine. She can be vulnerable without being weak. She can be sexual without being objectified. These aren't contradictions to her. They're different colors in her palette that she uses as the moment requires. The integrated woman doesn't need constant validation because she has validated herself through the process of facing and accepting all of who she is. This creates a centeredness that is deeply attractive. She's not trying to get something from men. She's inviting them into her world if they're worthy. This shift from needing to choosing is everything. She also becomes unpredictable in the best way. Not chaotic or unstable, but genuinely multidimensional. One day, she wants deep conversation. Another day, she wants playful banter. One moment she's tender, the next, she's fierce. Men never quite know what they're going to get, and this keeps the attraction alive. Boredom is impossible because she's not playing a one-note character. Moreover, the integrated woman is comfortable with both union and separation. She can merge deeply in intimacy without losing herself. She can be alone without feeling lonely. This comfort with both closeness and distance creates a healthy push-pull dynamic that maintains attraction. She moves toward him when she wants connection, and she moves toward herself when she needs space. She doesn't cling, But she also doesn't withhold as a manipulation. This woman also stops taking things personally in the same way. When you've faced your own darkness, you're less triggered by others' behavior. If a man is distant, she doesn't immediately assume she did something wrong or that she's not enough. She can hold space for the possibility that it's about him, not her. This non-reactive quality is incredibly magnetic because it creates emotional safety. Men can be themselves around her without feeling like they're constantly managing her emotions. One of the reasons shadow integration creates such powerful attraction is because it enhances sexual polarity. In the realm of masculine-feminine dynamics, polarity is what creates erotic tension. This doesn't mean rigid gender roles. It means the dance between complementary energies. When a woman represses her shadow, she often swings to one extreme. Either she's all light, the sweet, accommodating, always positive woman who has no edge, or she's all darkness, the bitter, cynical, closed-off woman who has armored herself against vulnerability. Neither extreme creates sustainable attraction. The integrated shadow allows a woman to move fluidly along the full spectrum of feminine energy. She can be receptive and assertive. She can surrender and lead. She can be soft and fierce. This full range creates a dynamic polarity that keeps the masculine energy engaged and pursuing. Think about it. If you're always receptive, always accommodating, always following, there's no challenge, no edge, no mystery. The masculine energy has nothing to work for, nothing to rise up to meet. But if you're always challenging, always pushing, always in your masculine energy, there's no softness to sink into, no feminine energy to receive. The woman with an integrated shadow can do both. She can challenge a man intellectually while being receptive emotionally. She can be fiercely independent in her life while being surrender in intimacy. She can hold her ground when necessary and yield when it serves her. This fluidity is what creates the magnetic pull that becomes obsession. Sexual polarity also requires that each person is comfortable with their own darkness. When a woman has integrated her shadow, she's not afraid of a man's darkness either. She can meet him in the depths without being overwhelmed or trying to fix him. She can handle intensity. This creates a rare kind of safety where both people can be fully human, fully complex, fully themselves. There's a lot of advice out there telling women to be mysterious to attract men. But there's a huge difference between authentic mystery that comes from shadow integration and manufactured mystery that comes from manipulation or fear. Manufactured mystery is playing games. It's not texting back for a calculated amount of time. It's pretending you're busy when you're not. It's withholding information to create artificial intrigue. It's being deliberately vague or confusing. Men can feel this inauthenticity, and while it might create temporary interest, it doesn't create lasting obsession. Authentic mystery comes from depth. It's being genuinely complex, having layers that reveal themselves over time. It's having a rich inner world that you selectively share. It's having parts of yourself that even you are still discovering. This kind of mystery is not a strategy. It's a natural byproduct of being a whole, multifaceted person. Another mistake is confusing aloofness with integration. Some women think that being cold, distant, or withholding is the same as having integrated their shadow. But coldness is often a defense mechanism, another form of hiding. The integrated woman can be warm and open while still maintaining her boundaries. She can be loving while still being whole. Her warmth doesn't make her vulnerable to exploitation because her boundaries are clear. Women also sometimes confuse masculine energy with shadow integration. They think being aggressive, dominant, or overly competitive is accessing their power. But this is often just swinging to the opposite extreme, rejecting femininity entirely rather than integrating its shadow aspects. True integration means you can access both masculine and feminine energies, both light and dark, and choose which serves you in any given moment. The biggest mistake, though, is thinking shadow work is about becoming someone else. It's not about transformation in the sense of changing who you are. It's about revelation, revealing who you've always been beneath the conditioning, beneath the repression, beneath the fear. Your shadow doesn't make you someone new. It makes you more of who you actually are. Here's a paradox. Integrating your shadow makes you both stronger and more vulnerable. The strength comes from accepting all of yourself. The vulnerability comes from being seen in your fullness, including your darkness. Many women think that to be attractive, they need to hide their vulnerabilities, their insecurities, their fears. They put on a mask of having it all together. But this isn't shadow integration. This is creating another persona. True shadow work means being willing to be seen in your totality. Your power and your wounds, your confidence and your doubts, your strength and your needs. This kind of authentic vulnerability is magnetic because it's rare. Most people are hiding behind some kind of armor. When you're willing to be seen without your armor, while still maintaining healthy boundaries, you create an intimacy that is intoxicating. Men feel they're seeing the real you, not a performance, not a carefully curated version, but the actual complex human being. However, there's a crucial distinction between healthy vulnerability and trauma dumping. Shadow integration doesn't mean sharing every insecurity on a first date or using your past wounds as a way to manipulate sympathy. Healthy vulnerability is selective, appropriate to the level of relationship, and comes from a place of strength rather than neediness. The integrated woman can say, "I feel scared right now," without collapsing into that fear. She can admit, "I don't have this figured out," without making it someone else's problem to fix. She can share her struggles without making them her identity. This kind of vulnerability, grounded in self-awareness and strength, creates deep connection without creating an imbalanced dynamic. While this talk has focused primarily on attraction and initial obsession, shadow integration is equally important for sustaining long-term relationships. In fact, many relationships die not from lack of love, but from lack of wholeness in one or both partners. When you enter a relationship without having integrated your shadow, you unconsciously expect your partner to complete you. You project onto them the qualities you've repressed in yourself. In the beginning, this can feel magical. We complete each other, but over time, it becomes suffocating. You resent them for not being what you need them to be, not realizing that what you need is actually within you. The woman who has integrated her shadow enters relationships from wholeness. She doesn't need her partner to make her feel powerful. She's already powerful. She doesn't need him to make her feel valuable. She knows her value. She doesn't need him to complete her. She desires him as an addition to an already full life. This is the foundation for healthy, long-term love. In long-term relationships, shadow integration also prevents the common dynamic where one partner carries all the darkness while the other carries all the light. In many relationships, one person becomes the negative one, always expressing anger, dissatisfaction, or criticism, while the other becomes the positive one, always accommodating, understanding, or peaceful. This split happens when both people have not integrated their shadows. When both partners have done shadow work, there's more balance. Both can be positive and negative, light and dark, depending on what the moment requires. There's no need for one person to carry the rejected qualities of the other. This creates a more authentic, sustainable dynamic where both people can be fully human. Shadow integration also keeps long-term relationships erotic. Eroticism dies when there's no mystery, no edge, no unknown territory to explore. When you're continually integrating your shadow, continually discovering new aspects of yourself, you remain mysterious, even to yourself. This ongoing self-discovery keeps you interesting, keeps you growing, and maintains the erotic tension that sustains desire over decades. While Jung approached the shadow from a psychological perspective, There's also a deeply spiritual dimension to this work. Many spiritual traditions speak of integration, wholeness, and the union of opposites, the alchemical marriage, the divine union of Shiva and Shakti, the sacred marriage in mystical Christianity. All of these point to the same truth. Wholeness comes from integrating what appears to be opposite. In the feminine spiritual tradition, this is often represented by the trinity of maiden, mother, and crone, or by goddesses who embody both creation and destruction, like Kali. These images remind us that the sacred feminine is not one-dimensional. She is the full cycle of life, death, and rebirth. When you integrate your shadow, you're not just doing psychological work, you're doing spiritual work. You're reclaiming parts of the divine feminine that have been exiled. You're remembering your wholeness. You're returning to your essential nature before it was fragmented by conditioning. This spiritual dimension adds depth and meaning to the work. You're not just trying to be more attractive to men. You're engaging in a sacred process of becoming whole, of embodying the fullness of feminine consciousness, of being a bridge between heaven and earth, between light and dark, between the conscious and unconscious realms. From this perspective, the obsession men feel is not just psychological or sexual, it's spiritual. They're recognizing in you the divine feminine in its fullness, not the sanitized, acceptable version, but the raw, wild, complete version that has existed since the beginning of time, but has been largely hidden in modern culture. Integrating your feminine shadow is perhaps the most courageous thing a woman can do in a world that constantly asks her to be less aggressive, less sexual, less ambitious, less complicated, less human. It requires facing what you've been taught to hate about yourself. It requires disappointing people who preferred you small and safe. It requires risking rejection by those who can't handle your fullness. But the reward is extraordinary. You become magnetic not through manipulation or performance, but through authentic wholeness. You attract not through neediness or games, but through genuine power. You create obsession not by withholding or confusing, but by being so fully yourself that you are endlessly fascinating. The men who are drawn to you won't be boys looking for a mother, or users looking for a doormat. They'll be men ready for a whole woman, men who can match your depth, men who rise to meet your intensity rather than asking you to diminish it. And the relationship you create will not be based on incompleteness seeking completion, but on two whole beings choosing to walk together while maintaining their individual sovereignty. This is the promise of shadow work. Not perfection, but wholeness. Not the elimination of darkness, but its conscious integration. Not the creation of someone new, but the revelation of who you've always been beneath the layers of repression and conditioning. And in that revelation, you discover a power that is simultaneously ancient and brand new, a magnetism that is both effortless and profound, a presence that commands obsession not by demanding it, but by simply being utterly, authentically, courageously yourself.